Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media, just taking a look at the 2022 reprint of the original run of the X-Men from 1963. This is the omnibus, of course, and what we usually do at this channel is just give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across this book in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now before diving into this, I did, for a fact, read this particular copy. Unfortunately, Marvel has gotten a little notorious in the last few years with printing errors and whatnot, so I did compare it with my Masterworks, and it is in fact good, so we don't have to worry about that part, thankfully. And maybe a second thing I should mention, I love X-Men. I'm definitely biased to them, so I'm not so much going to review the contents of the story, like talk about that, but more so the, what's the word, just the overall package we're getting here. Now, on the exterior, there are two variants that evoke the same image. So this is the Alex Ross interpretation versus the original Jack Kirby, which is available through Direct Market. I sided with the Alex Ross because it's nothing against you, Jack Kirby. I love Alex Ross too. So I had no compromise there. But yeah, it just harkens to that very first issue. Now, the spine, however, yeah, it does have your Marvel fare, but probably the one thing I didn't like was the text size of the spine. So probably could have been bigger, similar to how like Captain America's is nice and big, that kind of thing. So just a little gripe. But on the back, your typical fare when it comes to the catalog of issues you're getting. Like I said, 1963 to 67. Even that midpoint when Jack Kirby left and Werner Roth took over. But anywho, underneath the dust jacket though, thankfully it's not just your typical black covers here, but they added some titling, which is great. So I appreciate that as well. That same small font does extend on the spine as well, but at least it's badged and the character profiles there. And just like with the Captain America and other recent omnis, they at least put something special on the back. So like with the Captain America, where it's the original shield, here we have the original X for X-Men. So love that. Now in terms of bonus material, it is a typical fare you're expected to get. So in that light, here, let's grab that there for you. Almost did a no-no there, so apologies. But yeah, it is your typical fare with, interviews from like 75 from Stan Lee. And I think we have the Cook interview from like 2008. Yeah, John Cook. Yeah, 2008. And then the Bruce Canwell. So nice little appreciations there. And in terms of the art, and of course, kind of covers and whatnot, I like that we get the staging and planning from even before the composites were completed and colored. So definitely appreciate this kind of material because this kind of gives you the idea of the brainstorming, what was going on in the offices of Marvel at the time. Kazar, will you ever get your due? Yeah, but a lot of the X-Men reminds me of not just the, of course, Silver Age of Marvel, but it actually brings up more of the, what's the word, the Timely Comics run. And it's very appreciative to have all these. Although this particular image definitely reminds me of something and makes this kind of ironic. I grew up in the 90s. Well, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. So the Batman animated series and the X-Men animated series were kind of my vehicle into comics. So I just appreciate that these are actually done by Bruce Timm, the one of the showrunners of the Batman animated series. So definitely like that. And even some alternates. So here's some Infantinos. Oh, sorry, well, that one's Infantino. But nonetheless, very appreciative that they added that. And thankfully, nothing in terms of too much promotional material. As a matter of fact, no promotional material, which I love. Now, at least for the art and plot point section, let's flip her back over again. Now, it does start off in, the 60s or the 63 era, and Marvel, of course, they were always of the times, they were always of the zeitgeist. So their characters had a lot of vernacular and, colloquialisms of their time. So, you'd hear, what's that, man? Or that's pretty far out, or it's pretty posh, or whatever. You'd hear terms like that. So I appreciate it. And it's the original X-Men team. So, Angel, Beast, Iceman, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and of course Professor X. And even for the 60s, the story did get a lot of the geopolitical aspects because remember, X Men almost always served as like a social commentary for minorities. Sure, it's not a complete analog to them, but it's still supposed to hearken to a lot of the debates and protests of the time. So I appreciate that much. And the art stays consistent throughout, even when they do change hands between Jack Kirby and, of course, Werner Roth. But I always liked the original X Men gear because it always had that blackish blue along with the yellow, and I love that. Not to mention, the first issue debuts my favorite character of all time, at least in Marvel. Yeah, he might actually be Magneto, because he's probably one of the greatest antagonists who has a reason to be an antagonist. So when you give a character a purpose, they always tend to shine brighter. So I always appreciate that. And I just highlighted a few areas here, like for instance, the first appearances of Quicksilver, Mastermind, Toad, and of course Scarlet Witch. I think a lot of people will be paying attention to her these days. And in that light, even some other unique aspects, like for instance, the Stranger. Yeah, so the Stranger is a pretty big deal for like more celestial superheroes because he's on that level. He's a real threat to all of Marvel. If you ever wondered who created the planet Ego, the Stranger. That's how powerful this character is. And I think this story even actually leads into the first appearance of Juggernaut too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so very on point there. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of Marvel firsts in this, especially with the Sentinels. Yes, as I said, I watched the animated series back in the day. These were like the debut enemies of it, and man, I just love how on point it is. They really do stick true to what they are, even to the point of Master Mold. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help but do the voice. But I just always loved this concept and this idea that yeah, man builds machines, machines take over, kind of thing. You get your early interpretations of it here. It's been done before, of course. But yeah, I love how consistent this overall art is. Never gets old, for me at least. And I think I just have this page here bookmarked. Yes, this is basically when the hands changed, when it was like the whole Roy Thomas and Werner Roth taking over from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And yeah, the art, once again, it stays consistent. You would, if you are, a keen eye, you'll definitely pick up on the differences. But I have to admit, Werner Roth, who is going by the pseudonym Jay Gavin, I will admit, like he has a very, very consistent style too. Everything's nice and atomically correct. It's just, yeah, very on point overall. So you won't be dissatisfied, that's for sure. But yeah, overall, this is an excellent little package. I'm just gonna show just a few more pages just before we wrap up here. Uh, some of the oldest characters ever. Yeah, Marvel even had their own Scarecrow, Plant Man, like this is Mega Man or something. Oh yeah, Unicorn. I think he even is from the Timely comics and the Eel and Porcupine. Weird names, but hey, it works, right? And then I guess lastly, there we go. Just your first little glimpse into Banshee, a major X-Men in the future, that's for sure. But yeah, all in all, I definitely appreciated this little package. I definitely appreciate that Marvel made sure this was nice and complete, unlike before. So definitely gets a thumbs up from me. But hey, let me know if you guys are interested in maybe picking up one of these for yourself, or maybe just glancing through the history of these books. But all in all, y'all folks take care and enjoy the rest of your day.